Hello, fellow readers and gamers, or should I say, pioneers. I am continuing my playthrough of Everlasting Summer. We were about to go into the woods on a hike, and I had been paired with the librarian Shenya, who seems to have a great disliking for me. Uliana had been barred from the hike, and I think she's up to something. We'll see what happens in this chapter of Everlasting Summer. I still haven't seen any special reason to walk in pairs. Anyway, we were walking on the well-trodden forest trails, and it would be quite difficult to get lost here, even if I wanted to. Moreover, while we'd already been hiking for half an hour, we weren't rushing into the depths of the forest, trying to face all the dangers that could test our courage and harden our pioneer spirits, but instead, we're just walking around in circles. However, if we take into account that Olga Dmitrievna was our chief, this hike could be compared to a hobbit's march from the Shire to Mordor. Just as Shenya insisted, I was following her at a distance in silence. The librarian seemed to be perfectly okay with it. Hey, don't you know when we'll reach our destination? Our what? The place where we'll settle down and set up camp? The whole point of this hike isn't to set up a camp, but the hiking itself. You don't get it. Yeah, it seemed that I didn't understand a thing about hiking. I guess you're right, but still. I don't know. She replied sharply and quickened her pace. I caught up with her and asked, Listen, why are you always so... I was about to say mean, but stopped short. I haven't done anything bad to you, and I'm not going to. She glared at me in surprise. Always so... what? Well... unsociable, kind of, or is it something about me? Oh, cut that stupidity out already. As you wish. I decided not to start a conversation with her for the rest of the hike. At last, Olga Dmitrievna decided to end this Sisyphean toil. It's time to halt. The place chosen turned out to be a quite large glade, with a few tree trunks laid in half-circle to make an improvised arbor, with the remains of a campfire in the middle. Obviously, such hikes are a tradition of this camp. I was sent to gather firewood together with the other boys. It didn't take long because there were a lot of branches and logs of various sizes lying around. Eventually, Olga Dmitrievna lit the fire using some old newspapers. I was eager to know what was written there, but couldn't discern anything other than Soviet symbols. Pioneers took their places on the fallen log benches and started to talk about things. It seems that the final goal of this event had been achieved. The only things missing were a pot of fish soup, aluminum cups of vodka, and a guitar. But I wouldn't be surprised if all of these would appear somehow. Let's have some vodka. What are you thinking about? Slavia sat next to me. Oh, nothing special. Just enjoying the hike, I answered sarcastically. You don't look too happy. Well, I'm not about to jump for joy. Sorry about that. Okay, I won't disturb you. She sat with me for a while, but after realizing that I wasn't in the mood of talking, she left me to enjoy my introspection all alone. And all I wished for was to lie down in bed and fall asleep as soon as possible. But I was being surrounded by smoke and the useless chatter of pioneers around me instead. They were cheering and laughing and in general enjoying this warm summer evening. In the far side of the glade, I noticed that Lena was arguing with Elisa intensely. Intensely? And Lena seemed like complete opposites to me. Slavia had left to go somewhere after our conversation, it seems. Electronic and Shirk were trying furiously to prove something to Olga Dmitrievna. Looks like I'm the only one who doesn't belong here. So, try to find out what Elisa and Lena are arguing about, or do nothing, just stay seated. Let's find out what they're fighting about. Only Lena and Elisa stood out among all this splendor. Well, of course, it was quite natural for Elisa to be arguing with someone like that, but hearing Lena talk in a raised voice, I came closer silently, trying to understand what was going on. No, you listen to me. Think whatever you want. I've said everything. Ooh, it looks serious. I tried as hard as I could to not attract any attention and look like I'm just standing there with no intention of listening in on them. There's nothing to think about. Everything is clear as day. Don't try to wind me around your little finger like that. I know you too well. Why, of course you know everything. Then why won't you tell him yourself? Lena was getting angry. That alone was really weird, even considering that I didn't know what they were arguing about. That's none of your business. Elisa snorted, turned around, and her eyes met mine. Second later, Lena gave me a look as well. The girls stood there in confusion for some time. You're eavesdropping? Me? Oh, no. I was just, passing by. I put on the best smile I had, but it didn't seem to help much. By the way, today he was peeping at me. Elisa gave a malicious smile. Lena looked at me questioningly. First of all, why would she believe this devious fox's stories? I didn't peep. You know quite well that it was an accident. Ulyana should be the one to blame. Sure it was. Tell that to the cops. It seems like my excuse was not working. Did you like my boobs? A shiver ran up my spine. Is that true? Lena looked at me imploringly. Well, you see, it was an accident. I didn't see anything there. You didn't? Well, I can show you again. Elisa cried in anger. I didn't know what to say. You see, I told you. No. Lena started to mumble and rushed away a moment later. Wait, what happened? I shouted after her. You see what you did? That girl is upset now. She gave a spiteful smile. First of all, it wasn't me who upset her. Second, I don't have any idea what you two were arguing about. I was running out of patience. Why should I tell you? It seems like she thought that our talk was over and was about to leave. I grabbed her hand abruptly. Elisa glanced at me in fear, but didn't say anything. I was angry at that moment. Really angry. First, I was wildly enraged that Lena was upset because of me, even though I was maybe a little guilty. Second, I was enraged by Elisa's insolence. Third, I was so tired that I was about to lose my temper at the smallest thing. Happy now? I hissed, pointing into the darkness where Lena had run off. You only seem to have the guts to bomb memorials and hurt innocent girls. She looked frightened, saddened, and confused at the same time. She herself could hurt anyone. You just don't know her. The only truth here is that I don't know her too well, but I'm absolutely positive that she wouldn't hurt anyone. That's your job. We stood in silence for some time. I held Elisa's hand and didn't know what to do next. The solution dawned upon me all by itself. You have to go and apologize. Why the hell should I? Elisa tried to act as arrogant as always, but it wasn't going to work this time. 'Cause I said so. I refused to hear any objections and dragged her to the side of the bonfire. Olga Dmitrievna, I'm sorry. We have some urgent business to deal with, so we have to leave early. The guidance officer tried to object, but I didn't listen and headed after Lena, pulling Elisa along with me. After some time, I released her hand. Any objections? All the pride and arrogance had left Elisa's face long ago. If you want me to come with you, I will. But I have nothing to apologize for. I told her the truth. We'll see about that then. I cut her short. We had been walking in silence until we entered the camp. We came to the square and I asked Elisa, where do we go next? How should I know? And who said that they know Lena well? Was it me? Elisa hesitated. Well, she could be at the island. She often goes there when she wants to be alone. Excellent. We headed to the pier. Night came down on the camp while I searched for paddles and pottered around with the ropes. One boat was actually missing. Okay, today is your lucky day. You get to do several killer exercises that will build up your biceps, triceps, and other arm muscles, I said sarcastically. Are you serious? Elisa cast a fearful glance at me. Well, perhaps that was a little too rough. Even for her. All right, I won't make you row, of course. That hardly sounded confident. Swinging the paddles appeared to be much harder this time. Well, that's not surprising, considering that today I must have already filled my annual rowing quota. I stopped in the middle of the river to catch my breath. The camp was covered by night. A trivial and ordinary night. It was one of those nights when the dark sky, stars, and crescent moon don't make you feel anything special, and chirping crickets and twittering birds sound like they are doing a dull routine job rather than performing an otherwise exciting nocturne. I was staring into the darkness, trying to make out the shadowy island. How did you get to know her? Elisa shivered a little. We grew up together. She answered slowly after some hesitation. And ended up at the same pioneer camp? What a fabulous coincidence. All these questions, mysteries, and fears that had been so well hidden so far suddenly spawned in my head. Damn! I could just throw her out of the boat and drown her right here and now. I can demand answers. Although, it could be dangerous unless I'm sure that I know what I'm doing. But still, I thought that this time I was playing with the white pieces so I could make the first move and not just parry the blows of the opponent. So, what kind of camp is this? Elisa stared at me blankly. Where are we? Why am I here? She kept silent. Answer me! I shouted. Hey, what's wrong with you? If you want me to apologize to Lena, I will. That's when I realized how stupid I was acting, to say the least. She could simply be uninvolved in all that stuff. And what's more, one can't lie that convincingly. Elisa's fearful expression was yet another reason to believe her. Sorry. That was all I was able to say at the moment, yet I wanted to keep my advantage. The last few meters were really tough. Exhausted, I got out of the boat and lay on the cold ground. Elisa stood nearby, staring at me. I thought she was about to goad me or utter some barbed witticism, but since she remained silent, I assumed she was still shocked or something. Even though it was rather dark here, it would be easier to hide in my old flat than on this tiny island. Furthermore, Lena must have already heard us as we were crossing the river, so by now it's already too late to ask Elisa any more questions, even though I still had some. Listen, I looked at her but saw nothing. It was a dark night, and I didn't have cat's eyes. Well, when we find Lena, you're going to tell her you never wanted to hurt her feelings, and everything that happened in the morning was nothing but a misunderstanding, okay? My voice didn't sound as confident as it did a couple of minutes ago, but confident enough. Although Elisa said nothing, it was clear by the look on her face that she agreed. I stood up, and we went off to find Lena. Her boat was tied to a snag on the far side of the island. That's very clever of her. One wouldn't see the boat from afar, I mumbled. Well, that means she's somewhere in the trees. Let's find her. I headed into the grove, but Elisa stood still. What's up? I thought we'd discussed everything already. It's not that. It's just that it's dark in there. I had to strain my eyes to make out her face. The grove is smaller than my grandmother's daisy garden. What is there to be afraid of? Elisa didn't answer. If you want to know what I'm thinking, I would gladly just leave you here. I never know what trick you're up to. Well, she came very close to me. Let's go like this. She took my hand. I hadn't expected this outcome. My cheeks turned red and hot. My breath was taken away, and I could barely say anything. The whole situation didn't favor conversation, which was probably for the best, since I doubt I would be able to say anything smart. Slowly, we headed into the grove. In a couple of moments, I regained some control of myself. Come on, there is really nothing to be afraid of. We came here during the day gathering some strawberries. No big deal, just a normal birch grove. It's really nice here during the day, I added after a short pause. Elisa didn't look at me. She was staring somewhere into the distance. Well, it's up to you after all. A few moments later, she pointed somewhere in front of us. There she is. I peered into darkness, but could barely see anything. When we came closer, we saw Lena sitting beside a tree. She was crying. "Why have you come here?" she asked tearfully. "And you?" She looked at Elisa, but didn't finish the sentence. That moment, Elisa released my hand. "Well, you see, I just wanted to apologize for being somewhat harsh and rude," Elisa interrupted me. Her voice had regained that usual arrogance of hers. Maybe it's because she didn't want to look weak in front of Lena. What a perfect apology. Not walking the walk, are you? How clever of you to insist that I'm doing a bad thing and do that same thing yourself. Lena switched to shouting uncontrollably. "You got it all wrong. I get what I've seen. You see, girls, you're arguing again, and I seem to be somehow involved in all that, but I don't understand a thing." "Explain it to him," Lena said to Elisa with a grin. "There's nothing to explain." "Well, maybe you will let me have a try then." "Whatever." She crossed her arms over her chest and turned away. "Well then, Semyon, she blamed me for pursuing you." For a minute, there was complete silence. Lena didn't look like explaining any further, and as for me, I stood still trying to assemble the scattered pieces of the puzzle into a whole. "What do you mean?" "Exactly what I said." "It's not like that. That's not what I meant," interrupted Elisa. "Of course. You've always been like this." Lena burst into tears again. "Wait, how come?" "So, Lena likes me?" "And you? What about you? You're trying to convince me that it's all wrong while you're holding his hand." "What? So Elisa likes me too?" "Oh, come on. Elisa actually liking someone? This can't be happening." "It's just it was dark in here and that's so much like you. Always so arrogant, always trying to control others, but when it comes to yourself..." Elisa didn't answer. I really felt like I had to say something to diffuse the situation. "Hey, wait. Perhaps we just got it all wrong. This has nothing to do with you." Elisa's voice was oddly distant. "Judging by the conversation, this has everything to do with me." "Yes, it does. Ask her what she thinks of you, and why she told me not to go after you." I don't think Lena was actually, quote, going after me. "I'm telling you once again, we heard enough of your story already." Lena shut up and ran away into the darkness. I stood nailed to the spot, not sure what to do next. If I followed Lena now, what would I say when I found her? After all, I don't even understand what this is all about. My cluelessness and silly attempts to console her would only upset her more. Guess we'd better let her be alone for some time. That didn't sound very confident. Whatever. Without another word, Elisa headed back to the boat. The whole way across the river to the pier was hell of a trip. I had to stop every 10 or 20 meters to take a break. Elisa was staring at the river and didn't pay any attention to me. Well, this seems to be the first situation here in the camp that is completely beyond my comprehension. Even though ultimately it is just a trivial, everyday situation. I wasn't this confused even during the all-night expedition to the old camp. After all, if you have a closer look, there isn't anything strange here at all. Lena is a very shy and perhaps even introverted person, yet she's human and can't completely avoid normal human developments. Considering that, her reaction fits the situation quite well. Even if I don't get the source of the quarrel, it's clear as day that the girls would not behave like that if they didn't have a good reason. And as things were standing, I was that reason. And that's the strangest part of the whole situation. Hey, I'm sorry it went that way. If only I hadn't overheard your conversation. Seems like I was feeling a pathological need to excuse myself. It's not your fault at all, she said absent-mindedly. It's just that you appeared in the right place at the right time and restarted a mechanism that had stood still for a long time. I don't quite get it. Of course you don't. And actually, you shouldn't right now. You'll get it later. She cast an intense glance at me. Damn it. Why does this always happen to me? Both at school and college, trouble seems to have chosen me as its primary target. Someone blockaded the classroom's door with a mop. I got a written reprimand in my mark book. There was a fight. All things considered, I must have started it. Failed an exam? Well, of course that's my fault, and the teacher who hates me has nothing to do with it. Even my parents always seem to prefer blaming me rather than unfavorable circumstances, a third party's involvement, or the decrees of Providence. At some point, I even started to believe that I somehow do attract trouble. Remember Murphy's Law? In my case, it was like, if something nasty is going to happen, it's going to happen to me. For that reason, I always tried to stay out of any trouble where I could become the whipping boy. Well, judging by today, I'm not really good at it. It seems like you've got an aura of some sort. You do attract attention. Surprised, I looked at Elisa. She was smiling. Looks like she can read my mind. Trouble, mostly. Who knows, who knows, she said dreamily and stared at the river. It's a wonderful night, isn't it? Just like any other one, if you ask me. I felt used up. That's exactly what I'm talking about. Just an ordinary night, nothing special. The best moment to make our most admirable camp leader really happy. She has to know that her favorite pioneer is a nasty pervert who enjoys peeking at naked girls. Something snapped inside of me again. You aren't serious, are you? Why, of course I'm serious. She didn't look like she was joking at all. Well, suit yourself. But do you really think that this is the best time to do that? Aren't you supposed to row? I realized that our boat was still drifting in the river. Wait! Don't dodge my question. Let's get back to the camp. I'll have a moment to think it over. Getting to spend an entire night in a boat wasn't something I would aspire to, so I had to apply myself to the paddles. We barely made it to the pier. I was exhausted, both because of the rowing and because of Elisa's intent to tell Olga Dmitrievna about this morning's incident. If I know our camp leader, her reaction will be quite predictable. So, you are actually going to visit Olga Dmitrievna now, are you? Why not? She gave me her most roguish smile. It's night, after all. She must be sleeping already. Who knows? She might well be awake. Come on, you know full well it was a coincidence, a simple misunderstanding triggered by Olyana. No, I don't. She flung her arms up and headed to the camp. I gathered all my remaining strength, jumped up, and followed her. At first I considered grabbing her arm, but then realized it might not be such a good idea after everything that had happened today. Hold on. I trudged unenergetically along next to her. Let's talk this over. Is there anything to discuss? We silently walked alongside each other for some time. At least she walked slowly so that I had no trouble keeping pace with her, and I was thankful for it. Hey, is there anything I can do to convince you to not tell Olga Dmitrievna? Not sure, but, well, there is one thing. We came to the square. So what is it? Well, stop chasing Lena, for instance. Oh, for God's sake! What makes her think I'm chasing Lena? I started to lose my temper. Why are you making up such nonsense? You started that quarrel in the forest. Because of you, we had to go to that island, and here we go again. Enough is enough. I am not chasing her. Elisa stood still, bright moonshine lighting up her face, which showed evident signs of resentment and displeasure. Like I don't see how you look at her? How do I look at her? Like that. Like what? You know. She shifted her gaze, but remained standing still. Hey, stop seeing everyone through your twisted imagination. If you can't stop making up nonsense stories, then at least keep them to yourself. Don't make others suffer because of you and your stories. I don't care if you pick on me, but now you got Lena involved. I really lost my temper for good, but Elisa didn't answer. We sank into an unexpected silence that was only broken by Elisa's sparse sobs. From bad to worse? Now you are crying? Have you all gone mad here? I clasped my hands in despair. I could understand why Lena was crying, but seeing Elisa crying is unthinkable to say the least. I can't even see her reasoning. At any other time I would definitely be shocked, but at this moment, I'm just too tired for that. My mind was absolutely blank. To be precise, it was so heavy and full so that not even a single idea would have the chance to dwell there. If I would compare my brain at its prime to a broad highway full of speeding thoughts overtaking each other and causing giant, chaotic crashes, then now it's nothing but a forgotten tiny path and a distant, desolate forest which is only used in times of absolute necessity. Elisa kept silent. At least she'd stopped crying. If you really think it's so serious, go ahead and tell everything to Olga Dmitrievna. I hope it makes you feel better. Okay, I won't do it, she said quietly and turned to me. The tears were all gone, but her face seemed to express absolute sorrow at the world. I'm just feeling hurt. What hurt you? I asked her tiredly. It's always like that. She gets all the attention and always pushes me aside. I had difficulty understanding what she was talking about and decided to play along. Hopefully she'd finally leave me alone. That's not true. You do draw attention and people don't overlook you. I don't. I raised my eyes and looked at her. Her facial expression was a mixture of amazement and expectation. See? So could you... All of a sudden, her voice became so tender that I flinched in astonishment. Elisa's face turned red, and she hid her eyes. So, you really think that I'm as good as her? I wanted to say something like, even better, but stopped myself. Yes, I do. It seems she didn't understand that I said it all absolutely insincerely. Wow, dude, that's rude. All right, time to sleep, Elisa suddenly yelled cheerfully. Now she was acting more like herself again. See you tomorrow. She waved her hand and ran away. I sighed in relief. Well, it was over for today. All my remaining energy was wasted on a sprint to Olga Dmitrievna's cabin. There was no light, so trying not to awake the cabin leader, I undressed quietly and lay down. It's still interesting. What did Elisa mean? And Lena? It's become totally unclear what is going on with them and with me, as if we got sucked into some sort of vortex which started to swirl with furious power. But what's going to happen next? And where will I be thrown then? Day 5? Day 6. Oh! Day 6 and Elisa all of a sudden comes into the frame. Why? Interesting. Alright, well I'm going to end it there, because this video is a little bit longer than average, but, might as well finish out that day. So we're going into day number 6 now, and for the very first time, one of the girls appeared. So I'm guessing maybe that means that's sort of my end goal right now. I don't really know. So we'll see you in the next video. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. Click on the like button if you did. Subscribe to the channel so you can watch the rest of my videos. I think I'm starting to come close to the end of this game, and then I'll be starting a new one after that. Hope to see you next time. Until then, bye-bye for now.